represented my neighbors in Congress for 12 years, and I learned an awful lot. I learned how to work across the aisle on issues like growing the rural economies and taking care of veterans. And I learned how to compromise without compromising my values. Then I came back to serve as governor, and we got right to work, making a difference in our neighbors' lives. We cut taxes for the middle class. We passed paid family and medical leave. We invested in fighting crime and affordable housing. We cut the cost of prescription drugs and helped people escape the kind of medical debt that nearly sank my family. And we made sure that every kid in our state gets breakfast and lunch every day. You know, when I was teaching every year, we'd elect a student body president. And you know what? Those teenagers could teach Donald Trump a hell of a lot about what a leader is. Leaders don't spend all day insulting people and blaming others. Leaders do the work. So I don't know about you, I'm ready to turn the page on these guys. So go ahead, say it with me. We're not going back. We've got something better to offer the American people.
You know, Andrew, as you watch the speech last night and you see the reception he got in the room, you go back a couple of weeks and you think how much consternation there was when he was the choice over Governor Shapiro, for example. People saying, what are you doing? You've got to win Pennsylvania. You have this dynamic young governor in Josh Shapiro. The fact of the matter is most people just didn't know Governor Walz. And you get the sense in this room last night that the opinion, people have really come around to this guy as a potential vice president.
Absolutely. And Josh Shapiro gave a great speech last night. And I am sort of an adopted Pennsylvanian and view that as my roots. That's what I covered for years and years. I was in that camp. But Tim Walz just nailed it because of what they need right now. We all have our favorite teachers, our favorite high school coaches, you know, when we all went to those games on Thanksgiving Day. And he reminds us of our hometowns, big, small, medium-sized towns, and Gus Walz. I mean, those kids. You know, Gus and Hope, those children, and Gwen Walz, the teacher. And when one of those coaches said last night, I think on our show, Prime, to, you know, that Gwen Walz was our other favorite teacher.
Right.
She was beloved. And so the two of them together, and for, you know, the white guys in red states that they're trying to reach in small town America, in central Pennsylvania, the Trump towns, Macomb County, I think he really plays in that area in the Rust Belt.
Yeah, it was striking. We've been talking about this all week, Lebo, to see the themes that Democrats are leaning into. It's almost disorienting. In some ways, it feels like the Republican convention, which is taking back patriotism, taking back the flag, the USA chants that we've seen, throw in football, Friday Night Lights, all of the things that had sort of been seeded over the generations to Republicans. Democrats are saying, no, that's us too. We're all Americans.
Yeah, and that really underscores just, first of all, the incredible change that we've seen in the dynamics of this race, but also the identities of the party, this party in particular, over the last 4 weeks. And the thing about Walz, and to Andrea's point to some degree, there's like this rolling revelation with him. I mean, the power of newness, yes, familiarity, but there is so much newness around this ticket. And Walz has been sort of proving this for the last few weeks, which is perhaps what got him the job. And, you know, I think Democrats obviously hope that that continues through tonight with Kamala Harris.
And I think it's we should note the evolution that's occurred as the week has gone on, where, of course, Monday was about President Biden, and many speakers since, including Bill Clinton yesterday, delivered a really emotional tribute to him, his service as president, but also then his decision to step away. And then the Obamas sort of acted as that pivot point on Tuesday, where they're moving. Now we're changing the conversation this week to talk about the future. Vice President last night, the nominee last night, Kamala Harris tonight, Joe and Mika. And there is a sense, it can't be overstated, of and this is not to denigrate President Biden or his time in office. That's what everyone says, but of relief. There's a sense of joy and relief. The party had turned the page over a question that had been hanging around on them for 2 years, and then, of course, just got that much heavier after that Atlanta debate as to what do we do now. And I was talking to some former senior Biden aides yesterday who said, like, in their hearts, like, we're not sure he could win anymore. And now they say we have a fighting chance. And every speaker, and we heard it again last night, we heard it from the Obamas, this race is going to be close. Bill Clinton stressed that too. There are going to be hard days ahead. We're going to have to work. We're going to have to fight. But they now believe they've got momentum at their side. They've got a real chance. And tonight, Vice President Harris, addressing the biggest audience she ever has a chance to tell the American people who she is, what she stands for, and where she'll take the country.
And as she does this, Stephanie, this is a tale of two campaigns. You have the Democratic campaign hitting on all cylinders right now in a way nobody expected a couple of weeks ago, let alone a month ago. And let me read from you the Washington Post this morning. Trump attacks U.S. economic data, baselessly alleging an electoral scheme. The Republican nominee also acknowledges that he's having difficulty staying focused on policy issues and informally polled his crowd in North Carolina on whether they preferred personal attacks against Kamala Harris. Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump introduced a new premise for doubting the election results in advance on Wednesday, turning routine professional revisions of government economic statistics into a baseless allegation of political manipulation. Trump portrayed revised job creation numbers at the Bureau of Labor Statistics released on Wednesday as an accidental disclosure. Without presenting any evidence, he accused Biden-Harris of manipulating job statistics to rig the 2024 election. It is remarkable how unmoored he is, even by his own standards out there, admitting he can't stay focused on economic issues, admitting he can't stay focused on political issues. He just wants to attack.
He's all over the map, and it's just about Donald, Donald, Donald. I was at the RNC last month, and it wasn't like a showcase of the best of the party. You didn't have former presidents up there. You didn't have a cadre of the next generation of Republicans. It was an homage to praising Donald Trump. They celebrated like it was the inauguration. And think about the difference we've seen in the last 4 days. This hasn't just been about Kamala Harris and introducing Tim Walz. You have seen this lineup from Pete Buttigieg to Wes Moore, on and on and on. These extraordinary next generation Democrats that are showing you where the party's going. And I think Willie hit the best note, which was they have reclaimed patriotism, right? Wes Moore has been trying to do this and talking about it since he started running for governor of Maryland 2 years ago. But think about the amount of flags and stars and stripes we've seen over the last few days. If the volume was down on your TV and you were squinting, you might think you were watching the RNC. And this is so rattling for Donald Trump. And just to hear them over and over, you don't hear them saying my fellow Democrats. They're saying my fellow Americans, right? They talk about your neighbor. You saw Bill Clinton and Barack Obama talk about extend that olive branch, show more grace, the opposite of what Republicans are doing right now. So while Republicans are saying these are dark, dark times, Democrats seem to be turning on the lights and saying, everybody come on in.
Well, it is. I mean, Democrats are turning a page from Reagan's optimism. Talking about how great America is.
The possibility.
The possibility of America. You look at the economy, again, relative to the rest of the world, stronger than anybody else. Militarily, relative to the rest of the world, stronger than any time since 1945. Culturally, stronger than ever before. I mean, in every single way, this country is doing exceptionally well. And you have Donald Trump calling America a failing country. You have Donald Trump calling America a stupid country. You have Donald Trump saying America is in decline. There is no data that comes close to suggesting that. And when he does that, well, he invites the retort, the USA, USA. He makes the Democratic Party, the party of patriotism, the party of people who are actually proud to be Americans. Even the Olympics. I was sort of tuned out the first couple of days of the Olympics. We were away, and I wasn't looking at social media. I wasn't looking at news. Like 3 or 4 days later, I went back on Twitter. I was like, oh, conservatives hate the Olympics. Yeah. Why do they hate the Olympics? And then I go, oh, because the French were being French, right? So the rest of America...
Because they misunderstood the opening ceremonies, because they didn't actually pay attention to it.
And it's much better for them to be outraged all the time at everything.
Agreed.
So America cheers for Team America, and you have the aggrieved Trump party attacking the Olympics. And it's just... That's the story of our political time right now.
You mentioned Reagan. What would be a brilliant move by the Democrats, and they've been, from a marketing point of view, they've been on point. Do a updated Morning in America. Because basically the statistics that you would use for today for Democrats blow away Reagan's 1984 Morning in America. Cut that commercial. It's Morning in America, but do it for the Democrats, and that would be the ultimate finger to Republicans.
Yeah. Willie, again, you look at the optimism from the Democratic Party. As a former Republican, it's not something that I am used to. I'm used to Democrats wringing their hands, not exactly sure knowing how assertive to be on policy issues. When I was saying before, Tim Miller, joking to Tim, that if anybody broke out in a chant of USA, USA, everybody would look over their shoulder. What? What? I mean, I think Nancy Pelosi started talking. I mean, she always has. She's a person of deep faith, but she started talking publicly about faith, pretty aggressively about a decade ago in the public sphere. That's something that Democrats just didn't do. And you started seeing Nancy Pelosi and others start to do that. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, again, it's just sort of a 180 change for both parties.
And as you say, it is Donald Trump who has opened the door to this. He goes out every day, and he did again yesterday, trashing America, saying it's a third world country, saying we're a banana republic, goes on and on and on. He feels he has to tear it down because he's the one who can build it back up. Democrats are saying, we tried that once, we're turning the page. And you listen to people like Governor Walz or Secretary Buttigieg or Governor Moore. You can go on and on talking about their own military service and why they did that, why they love the country. You talk to Senator Warnock, who made a stirring speech a couple of nights ago and said, only in America could my mother pick tobacco and cotton, and a generation later I could be a United States senator. They're talking about the greatness of America, contrasted with the way Donald Trump talks about it every day. Andrea, you've lived through a few of these conventions. You've seen enthusiasm. The key then is to translate it into people going out to vote. So this is all well and good for Democrats this week, but there are 75 days from this point forward to Election Day. What's your sense of what they need to do to keep this rolling?
I go back to Michelle Obama's speech, which is, that they have to do the work. They have to do the phone calls, call your neighbors. She said, don't expect an invitation. Consider this your invitation. I'm Michelle Obama and telling you, you've got to do the work. I was on the floor and talking to people in different delegations, and they say, first of all, volunteerism is way up. Yeah. And they already had an infrastructure that Joe Biden built with all that early money. So they had a much better, county-to-county infrastructure, lots of offices. But they need to make that happen, much better than the Trump campaign had. But now they've got to just not only raise the money, but know how to spend it and do the absolute work that makes elections happen. And they have to figure out which counties they have to do it in, and they know the battlegrounds. Both campaigns obviously know the battlegrounds.